Welcome to today's episode of We Don't Know What to Call It. So what our goal today is to you guys send in what you would like us to name this segment of the show. Basically what it is, the concept and the idea is roundtable discussion with other trainers, other clinicians, other horsemen that are in the business, and we're gonna cuss and discuss, as they say, right? We're gonna get everybody's viewpoint of what it is. What we hope to do is be able to have you send in weekly topics, and we'll draw out of the hat, and basically we're gonna give our viewpoint on what it is, whether we like it, whether we don't like it, where we stand on a situation, you know, how we handle it on our end. And we want you to go ahead and submit your name suggestions for what this segment is. So basically it's a roundtable discussion on a rectagon table. Rectagon, that's a new word. I'm trademarking it. Rectangular table.
I like Cuss N Discuss.
Cuss N Discuss. Maybe that's a good one.
That flows really good.
Yeah. What do you think of that?
That sounds good to me.
Okay. There we go. So that's what's leading the race right now. If you like Cuss N Discuss, put it in the description. Like it. Send it on. We'll go with there. So today's topic and our guest for today, Flynn Stewart, super agent to the stars. Steve Kutie, just your average Joe. Ginger Duke, trick rider extraordinaire. Mark Lyon, Mr. Mustache. So what we're going to talk about today is something that's kind of, I would like to say, near to dear to my heart, but we get started on this topic every time we get together, and it's always about work ethic with today's, not even necessarily youth, but just work ethic in general, right? I mean, times have changed. I don't know whether the horse business is going up, prices are going up, right? But the quality of work goes down. You know, it's hard to find help. It's hard to find people who want to do things. And, you know, so here we are. So we have talked a lot about today's youth and wanting to be involved in the horse biz and what benefits truly come to them, right, by working for a established trainer, right? Somebody who knows the game, somebody who has their program, and, you know, the benefits they would get by working for someone. The problem that I've always run into is, for me, it tends to be an intern position in the beginning, right? And the more skills that you have, the more you get paid, the more you get trusted, the more responsibilities you get, the better horses you get to ride, right? Just all those things come with it. But when we start out in the beginning, everybody wants top dollar, ride the show horses. Nobody wants to clean stalls. Nobody wants to feed. Nobody wants to pull weeds, right? I mean, nobody wants to do that. But, you know, as my friend Dr. Joe Gotti had said, right? He's like, I don't like to think that I'm above cleaning stalls, but I like to think I'm beyond it. So, you know, no matter if you're a world champion or what you've done, what are you going to do when you don't have help?
Clean stalls.
Feed and clean stalls. So we'll just start with you, Mark. I mean, what do you think your issues are and kind of what direction everything's going?
Yeah, I come from a little bit different spot because I don't have any interns. I have students. They pay me to come learn. So I don't pay guys to help. Most of the help that I need, I can hire cheaper. So I have a guy that cleans stalls. He gets $2 a stall. Like, most people don't want to work for that, which is not a problem. And most people are coming to me to learn the business or learn the education. So I'm like, look, you can work for me, and, you know, I pay you $7 an hour, and, you know, you work for me for 10 hours a day. That's $70. That gets you a $70, you know, lesson. And if I charge, you know, $50 to $100 an hour, that gets you a half-hour lesson or a lesson a day. That's not, you're trading a whole day of work for a 1 hour lesson. Or you can just pay me to teach you, and yeah, you're gonna do a little work and help. But, you know, I mean, that's kind of how I value it. I think that, you know, I'd rather have those kids go out and work somewhere and kind of view it as an education. They pay to go to school, so you're paying to do that. If you want to work for your education, be valuable. Like, you're basically, I've never been fired from a job I want to keep. You know, if you're irreplaceable, if you're the guy that they can depend on, man, you're not going to get fired.
Right.
They'll pay you more. You know, if you can ride colts and shoe a few horses and fix some stuff and know how to air the tire up on the tractor and fix the feed wagon and do all that stuff, man, you're irreplaceable on a farm. You show up and you start solving problems for that whoever the boss is.
Right.
They're like, we're not getting rid of him. He's not leaving. Like those other guys, they can leave. That one's staying. And so I think that's working hard, like you said, working hard, being teachable, being coachable. Those are super skills that have kind of gone away.
Right. I mean, I think the most important thing for me is the magical unicorn that you just discussed, of the fact of you get people to actually pay you to come, right? I'm on the other side of it, and inevitably I always have to pay somebody, right? And the way my deal works is with the interns. I mean, you get it's an efficiency apartment.
Yep.
You get to bring a horse. You get lesson after the stalls are clean and the horses are fed, and you get to ride horses the rest of the day, right? You get 100, 150 a week, depending on what it is, right? You got, like I say, the apartment with no utilities, no rent, none of that stuff. And you get to learn, right? I mean, so like you said, is that I think that they don't necessarily value your time as a trainer, right? Or the time that you put in to learn your trade, right?
Right.
So like you said, I mean, I'm $75 to $100 an hour for a lesson, right? So if they get all the stalls clean and everything's done and it's noon, right? And we ride till 5 or 6 in the evening, that's 5 or 6 hours a day. You know what I mean? That's in theory $600 every day of experience, right? On getting to ride good horses that don't want to kill you. And that's one of the big things that I try to explain to them. I said, if your skill set's here and my skill set's here when it comes to riding colts and stuff, why would I put you on a colt to get hurt? Because if you get hurt, then I'm back to feeding and cleaning stalls, right? And I still have to pay you and look after you, right? Because I'm the guy that put you in that situation. So generally, I'm going to be the guy that rides those to keep you out of that situation, right? And if you go out on your own, you're going to end up with better horses through my program, right, than what you're going to get to start out. And I know you and Ginger do a lot with, the Mustangs and things. So your level of horses is different than what I'm looking for. But, and my program, I think it's good, right? Because you go to college and you come out with, $100,000 debt to a job that probably doesn't exist, and you're flipping burgers at McDonald's, right? You can go to work for any of us and turn around and come out with a little bit of money every week to learn, a place to live, meet customers, do a great job, and get customer horses to ride and build your business. So in the same amount of time, you come out with zero debt and a business.
Yep.
I mean, that's the way to go. Does it suck in the beginning? It sucks. I mean, I promise you. And it still sucks to this day, right? Because if nobody's there cleaning stalls, you got to clean stalls. You got to feed. You got to do all those things. And, their job being there for me is to make it easier so I can do other things, right? Because yes, I can clean stalls and I can feed, but my job is not to help you do those, right? My job is so that you can help me go do other things that we need to do, and I also give them a percentage of if we sell a sale horse, right, and they've been working, I give them a commission so then they can get bonuses and do that.
Right.
And I mean, to me, I think it's a great opportunity, but maybe I'm old, right, and don't see the value of, the way they do.
I think your program is great. I think most of the time, sometimes they don't see it. They've grown up with a little bit easier lifestyle, and so they don't realize, hey, you gotta fight to earn it a little bit, and they don't see it as, hey, and like I say, I've interned with a few people and worked for a few people, and you are the guy that they know you can ride some colts and you do a good job, and you say, look, I think, well, like we're talking about, they want to show up the first day and go, hey, I want to ride the show horses, and I want to show, and I want to, and you're like, nope, you can go.
Right.
Why? Because you're not valuable to me. You're asking for stuff that's, I was in the same situation, but I was like, hey, I'd like to show some. That opportunity isn't here. Okay.
Right.
You're leaving? Whoa, wait a minute. Whoa, who am I going to get to, you're shoeing half the horses and trimming the ones that are bad and fixing. Well, we'll find you a horse to show, because by golly, you're not leaving anywhere.
Right.
And so, like I say, be irreplaceable. Be that one where you get done, and then when you're out riding, pay attention to that guy. I mean, he's the guy you're learning from. Ask him some questions. Pay attention. Look, ask him intelligent questions.
Right.
If you ask an intelligent question then I understand, or I can see you've been paying attention to what I've been doing, and why did you do that there, and this to a similar situation you did something different? Oh, well, you've been paying attention.
Right.
And so obviously I'm going to, I love teaching people. I mean, that's why we do this, is we love teaching, whether it's horses or whether it's the humans. We want to help them, but they kind of got to be paying attention, and the more they're paying attention.
Yeah. I mean, I've had this conversation, with Paul, the camera guy, right, on things. I'm like, they have a unique opportunity right now with the situation we're in, with all the things that we're shooting and the TV show and those things, right? Is that right now with everything being so social media and on YouTube and the internet, right? I mean, how much more value can you get by learning how the camera deal work, right? Like, how are the scenes shot? What are they looking for? I mean, because you got guys that are making, hundreds if not thousands of dollars a day, right, who do the camera stuff, and they're giving you all the answers if you just stand around and do it. I know you're tired, but come out of the apartment, right, watch what's going on, because that stuff is there. And I mean, and by no means we're not bad mouthing everybody, because I mean there's good and bad with all of it, and I'm sure there's lots of people who are like, oh, Steve Kutie sucks and he doesn't do this and that. That's cool, right? But I've always tried to be on my own path, and I knew where I wanted to go, and I didn't let that change it, right? Because when you work for somebody, and I mean, we know, like Keith, right? I mean, sometimes they're not easy to work for, right? But you got to take the ass eatings that come with it, right? Because you're going to learn something, whether it's good or bad. You're going to learn something, right? And sometimes when you work for a guy, you don't have to agree with everything he says, but you can learn a lot about what not to do, right? I mean, sometimes that's more important than learning what to do.
Yep. Yeah, like I say, you can learn by watching somebody, whether they're doing it right or wrong. And I would say one of the biggest things I try to coach some young people going into it, and I say, go figure. First of all, find out where you want to be and what you want to do. Because if you want to be a reiner and you intern for a dressage person, that's probably not going to work out real well, right? And if you want to start colts and all you're doing is learning from a guy that's maybe teaching non-pro lessons, that's probably not going to help you. Find a guy that's doing what you want to do and learn all you can from him. And yeah, it's nice to be able to have a wide variety of skills that you're good at. You should know something about dressage, but that doesn't mean you got to spend 2 years with somebody when really you want to do roping.
Right.
And so, find a guy that, you're hoping to become very similar to that person. Your ideas, your mentality, your training, is similar to that. Somebody successful in your genre of where you want to go, and work with that one.
Right. Now, I know your deal's a little bit different, Flynn, because you were fitting a lot of sale horses. You didn't necessarily have employees a lot, right? Because I know you did a lot by yourself. But
we had employees, but we couldn't teach them.
Right.
Except they learned something about how to take care of horses. And,
right.
We taught them how you get a horse fit, how you get the hair off of them,
right,
and how you get them fit to grow.
Right. I mean, well, because Flynn's background was with a lot of fitting sale horses and doing things like that. So, I mean, to me, that's like playing the halter horse game, right? Well, and when you're selling horses, what do they want?
Yeah.
Fat, slick, and shiny, right? So they don't even have to ride well, but if they look pretty,
that's right.
Then that's the thing. So over the years, because you've been in it since your whole life, but
yeah,
when you started flipping sale horses,
80s, early 80s.
Okay, so you got 40 years in it, right? How has it changed in your eyes over the years, or has it been? I guess that's an interesting question, right? Has it been the same, right? Back in the 80s, was it the same problem with helping people in the industry, because a lot of people in the industry, right? Was it the same problem, and we're just realizing that I'm older and I have the problem, and then Mark's behind me, or Ginger, however it goes, right? We all run into the same problem that you had 40 years ago, or has it just kind of been downhill?
Well, the horse business has gone almost straight up. I mean, the market now is unbelievable compared to what it was in the early 80s. One thing, I was one of the first traders around, first flippers, to have pictures, professional pictures made of my horses. And I always sold a lot of horses at Shawnee, Oklahoma, up there in that sale. And I would have Don Schukert. He lived up at Marietta, Oklahoma, and he was the best. And he's, for a long time, he was the only one, but now they're everywhere. Professional photographers that would come and take a professional picture of these horses.
Right.
And then I'd send them and they'd put them in the catalog, and it would make a big difference.
Right.
But there was always something to be learned in my barn, but I wasn't very good at teaching it, I guess. But all we did was feed and brush and exercise.
Right.
And that was just about what it amounted to.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's underestimated the amount of time that it takes just elbow grease. Oh, yes. Right? You know,
yes.
grooming. I mean, you know, that's a never-ending battle. It's like, you know, I mean, the good thing is if you're in the horse business and you clean stalls and you feed horses, you will always have a job.
You bet.
Always.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Because that's happening every day. In one end, out the other. That's job security.
Yep. And being dependable at it and good at it. You know, people don't realize how much of a difference a good stall cleaner or a good feeder can make. You know, I mean, yes, true, anybody can feed horses and clean stalls, but you have a guy that's good at it and the stalls are cleaned well and it doesn't take them 2 hours for each stall. That's good. I mean, especially if you're paying somebody and all they do is they get the horses fed and they clean the stalls, and it takes them all day, and then you have another guy that feeds horses, cleans all the stalls, and he does it in half the time, and they're done just as well.
Yep.
And now he can go mow the lawn, or, you know, wash blankets, or, you know, wash the barn down, or, you know, sweep the floors, or do other stuff. Man, that's efficiency, and it's worth something.
Right.
Back in the 80s, I had a couple, a father and son. They were undocumented. They lived in the barn, and it had a nice apartment and an air conditioner and all of that. It was fine. And the father of this father-son team had worked in a polo stable in Mexico City for years. And he knew when one of them raised his tail, and if it was on the other end of the barn, he was there before it hit the ground.
Right.
And he'd liable to go in one of them stalls 4, 5, 6 times a day.
Right.
But he stayed in the barn, and his young son, who was pretty husky, pretty stout kind of
like me.
Yeah. He's the one that did all the outside work.
Right.
On building fence or fixing fence or whatever, grubbing mesquites, just whatever.
Right.
But the way they did it, they fed grain at 6 o'clock in the morning. And then at noon, he gave them hay. And then at 6 o'clock in the evening, he grained them again. And then before he went to bed at 11 or 12 o'clock, he gave them more hay. And that gave them something to eat all day. And that was a pretty good way of doing it, I thought. Right. And he kept the stalls clean, but of course we don't have very many undocumented workers anymore, and these guys both eventually got their citizenship. Right. We helped them do that.
Yep.
And so they've stepped on up. They do come by and see us every now and then, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it's a hard deal keeping good help, right? And I understand, right, that people think of stuff as, I mean, you're being anal or you're being picky, and there's a reason behind why we do what we do, whether you understand it or not. I mean, there's a reason behind it, and ultimately, we're not trying to take advantage of people. I mean, most. Right, because we've all been there and we all want to be in the biz and we know what work it takes. And there's lots of long hours, right? So everybody's got, a different role in what it is. And, Ginger, I know you ride a few colts, right? And you do that, but with the trick riding, I know it's a lot of yours, right? I mean, you're not Right, you don't have other people training your trick horses per se, right? I mean, so you're on your own, and you probably do a lot of that stuff because your numbers are smaller. You know, where I've got probably 30 to 40 horses, you only have a handful.
Yeah, I keep, like, when I'm home and I've got a barn full, 12 is a pretty good number for me. If I've got an intern for a while, might go up to 15 or something, but I try to make it so that I can get all of them done pretty easy with not too big a deal. But yeah, it depends on how you want to scale it. You know, like say some people like to have a little smaller deal and do, you know, more coaching, more lessons, more this and that. And then of course, you know, I'm on the road quite a bit, so I do a lot of clinics and stuff like that. And so while I'm on the road, I'll have 1 or 2 of my horses, 1 or 2 client horses, and that's kind of where I want to keep it.
How many did you usually have?
Oh, I usually had a barn full, which would be 12 head, and then probably 10 to 15 outside horses out in the, either the pasture or the paddocks or whatever. And but now I don't have near that many. I've retired, semi-retired.
They've turned you out to pasture.
Yes, they did.
Yeah. So how many do you have, Ginger?
So I have 15 to 20 at any time of personal horses, and then we don't really like to take any more than 8 client horses.
Right.
So I'm kind of like Mark. So originally I tried to kind of do it the way you did it, like take on interns. And then as they got better, I would try to pay them, and then I felt obligated, and then I just ran into problems because then let's say an unexpected bill came up and I couldn't pay them as much, even though it was always, you're coming to learn in exchange for helping. And you know, something would come up, well then they'd be mad that they didn't get paid what they'd gotten paid the last month or something. And so I just got to where it just became such a problem and hard to make everyone happy. Either, you know, I felt like I was getting shafted or they felt like they were getting shafted. So I ex-nayed it and went more Mark's route. Like I do a lot more, they pay, and if they want to come learn, they're just going to come pay for lessons or pay for their internship, and that way there's not a gray area, you know, and then I don't feel obligated, you know, and I lay it out pretty clearly, you know, in my contract, you know, this is what I will offer you, this is what you're going to get to learn. And a lot of people that come to me, they're wanting to trick ride, but they're wanting to learn to ride colts too. So they're kind of getting 2 avenues when they come to us. So I kind of went more you're going to pay me for my time and to learn the things that I've learned the hard way.
So you're riding the magical unicorn yourself?
Now, I'm not saying I get a bunch of people.
Right, yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
But for me, it just ended up being, it wasn't worth it for me to have the headache.
Right.
So it just was easier, like, okay, you want to learn? Here's my program. Here's what you're going to pay. Either you want to do it or you don't.
Right.
It's not worth the headache to have any gray area or try to exchange it anymore. It's just easier to have the contract. This is how it is. Either you want to come learn to do all these things, or you're going to go somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, like, I try to tell them, I'm like, I want you guys to be successful and take over the barn, right? Because if you can ride 30 horses, then I get to go do other stuff, right? And you know, I'm getting old like Flynn, right? And I don't want to do as much.
I don't either.
You know, I mean, so I want somebody who wants to, I guess, you know, when you hire somebody, you try to hire somebody that you think is going to be like you, right? And take care of the stuff like you would take care of it, right? Because you know, you want to see them be successful. Because I mean, I've never had anybody that come over and be like, you know, I want to see you fail, right? You're going to ride all the crap and you're going to do double the work, you know, none of that stuff. And I've always tried to, and it doesn't always work out that way because we have lots of other commitments. But you know, if we're at the barn and everybody's been working and stuff, I'll help you feed, right? I mean, I help you do those things in the evening so everybody can get done. You know what I mean? Like, I mow the grass. I do those things. I don't expect you, when you come, to mow my grass. You know what I mean? That's not how I am. The grass has to be mowed. So there's lots of times that I'm riding around on the mower with the headlights on at 10:30 at night mowing because that's when it has to get done. And you know, but I think sometimes that you feel like, you know, you're on the low end of the totem pole, right? And the people don't care. I mean, it's just, you know, I have a little thing that I do when we do all these clinics. So you know, everybody says, how do you become successful in the horse business, right? So the best way I could always explain it to people is, say that your group, you had 100 people in your group, right? So now, out of those 100 people, 50 of you are going to get pregnant or get somebody pregnant, right? So that already cut the class in half right off the bat, right? The other half of you is going to get hurt, okay? Or some of you is not going to like to eat ramen noodles and drink Kool-Aid every day, right? There's some of you that only want to work 9 to 5 and not 5 to 9, and all that stuff is that's acceptable, right? There's going to be some of you that don't like to ride hurt, right? There's all these things that go into it. So then in the end, when you look at 40 or 50 years in the business, what are you all of a sudden? You're successful because there's only 2 of you left, right? And everybody said, how did you become successful, right? I mean, you just outlasted everybody. I mean, it was a 40-year war of attrition, and you were the only guy that made it to the top. Isn't that it? I mean that's the way you have to look at it, because we're getting beat down every day.
I think there are some ways that you can beat the odds by. Some of it's luck of the draw. Some of it's just you weren't one of the ones that got shot in battle. You know, I mean, there was bullets flying everywhere, and you just happened to not get hit. Yeah. And then there's other ones like keep your head down and stay in the foxholes, which also helps your chances of not getting hit by flying bullets to be better, right? We have more of the guys that are standing up get hit than the guys that are crawling on the ground. So, and that's where I think, you know, for the intern thing or for going to learn from an expert is they're going to tell you, hey, this pitfall, one to avoid. This pitfall, one to avoid. This, and if you can start avoiding some of those mines, those landmines out in the industry, then that helps you make it, more people make it to the finish line. You know, like say, it may be only 2 people make it. And then if we said, hey, look, anybody want to make it to the finish line? Everybody raise their hands. Okay, don't get, the less you get hurt, the more likely you'll make it to the finish line. Here's how to not get hurt. Right. Here's how to not go bankrupt. Here's how to, and then all of a sudden more people start making it to the finish line. So for me, I try to go, when they come in, the first thing I do is go, what do you want to do? Like, let's see some of your goals. And then I go, okay, these are your goals. How do we help you get to those goals? Like, you want to be a, you know, reining horse guy. Okay, let's work on how you get there. You want to be a colt starter. You want to be a clinician. You want to be, you know, dressage. You want to be whatever. So let's figure out how to get you to that end. And
you know, it's funny because both of you do, you know, dressage, Mustangs, right? And you know, I mean, we're pretty good friends about things, right? But when, you know, I get interns and help that would come to me and they'd be like, I want to train Mustangs for a living, and first thing I say, that's a terrible business plan. Like, you know, that's the very first thing that I say, right? But when you look at it, you guys have made a business and a living, right, out of doing just that. Right. So, I mean, just because that doesn't work for my, you know, my program, I mean, it works for what you guys are doing, right? Yeah. So,
and I tell people the same, when you talk about Mustangs, they'll go, I've had, I don't know how many people in the last 6 months have said, do you think Mustang makeover is a good thing? Depends what your goal is. What's your goal? Well, I don't know. Well, I can't tell you. If you think that you can do fairly well, and you don't have the money to go enter a show, Mustang makeover is a really good deal because they give you a horse. They don't pay you to. There's no entry fee. You don't have to pay to stall it. You don't. So you can get in there, and if you're successful, you get some notoriety and you get some recognition for doing a good job. I mean, if you go buy a horse if you're going to go show something, you need to pay probably $2,000 or more for a prospect. You need to be able to train it for a year, and then you need to be able to go show it. Well, that takes some money. Well, same, and if you win, you get some more clients, right? So, win something, okay, well, that's going to take you $15,000. Or you could do the Mustang makeover thing, which is going to cost you $0, except for the feeding. So that's a good, will it get you maybe the amount or the quality of clients? Probably not, but it's also way cheaper. So if that's your goal, it might be good for you. Now, if you are going to take it and you're going to end up in the bottom half, probably not a good idea for you.
Right.
So yeah, so it's just kind of, there's knowing the person's skill level and where they want to end up. Yeah, is it beneficial for everybody? No. Is it beneficial for some? Yes. And let's see if that's a good idea for you, then let's help you. If it's not, let's find something that is.
Right.
So obviously we train horses as well, but I mean, I learned to trick ride from J.W. Stoker, and he always told me, don't teach until you're ready to retire, because all you're doing is teaching those people to go take your job. So it's not necessarily the same, but it kind of is, because I'm sure we've all been screwed over in the industry, you know, by someone that you've helped. But for me in the trick riding, it's such a small network. And so he was right, and that's, I think, why I kind of, at one point I really needed the money, so I started doing some stuff, you know. But it is true, because for the trick riding aspect of it, if I train somebody for free and don't teach them the entire aspect of the business, and then they go do shows for free, well, they're taking money out of my pocket.
Right.
So it was just easier for me to be like, okay, you're just gonna pay me, and then I make you sign a contract. This is what I expect of you. You don't get to go do rodeos on your own. Like, I don't train a lot of girls. I mean, I do help trick riders already going, but I don't train a lot of girls necessarily to go trick ride on their own right now. I give them the opportunity to come learn from me and ride with me. Because there's so many out there that just, oh, I know, I'm a trick rider, I learned 3 tricks, I'm gonna go do a rodeo for free. And I've had them call me, and a lady, well, I want my daughter to trick ride. Okay, what are your goals? Well, I want her to do the local rodeos. I said, okay, well, are you gonna charge? Well, no, it's just our local rodeos. I said, well, can you tell me what rodeos that is? I said, I'm sorry, I can't help you. Well, I don't understand. And the lady gets all mad. I'm like, I do those rodeos and I get paid for them. Why would I teach you to go take my rodeos and do them for free?
Right.
Like, so in that aspect, I have a little bit different, you know, viewpoint on it. As far as like training colts and having a business, in that aspect, then we do it more that way.
Right.
You know, but as far as just coming in for the trick riding, I'm a little bit more strict, because it's a little bit smaller and you don't want them to go take your job. I mean, you know, the reining business, there's a lot of reining trainers, but there's also a lot of people that want to send their horses. So it's not
such a small market.
It's not such a small market.
Right.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, we've had this conversation with you guys, right? Is that really the clinics that I do, right? Like the 6 steps that I do, they would all fit on a business card, right? That is the answer to my whole training program, right? And people say, why would you give them all the steps? Because what I have to count on is that your inability to do the one thing that I told you to do over and over and over again that would make you a great trainer, you can't do it.
Yep.
Right? I mean, so that's not being rude or mean, right? But that's just saying you can't do it, because, you know, when we go back to do a clinic, it's the same, you know, it's the same problem, right? So that happens over and over and over again. So I'm safe in the fact of I can give you all the answers, but they're gonna vary just a little bit on what the horse does, right? Because if I say, put this leg on, well, now that's all subjective, right? How much leg does it become? Right? I know that because, you know, it's 40 years of doing it that you figure that out, right? But when you don't know, then you don't know what that is, right? Because now, is it an ounce? Is it 10 pounds, right? I mean, are you a split second too late? Because then it comes timing. Those things happen because you've worked for somebody, right? And you understand when to push the buttons, you know what I mean? Or when to pull the lever, right? Or when to do this. That's what you learn when you work for somebody. I give you all the answers, you know what I mean? And you know, we've said this at clinics, is that you could take the horse that won the fraternity, whatever fraternity it is, right? And plop any of us on it who are successful horse trainers and probably could not go win most things with it after that, right? Because I think that horse and that rider, they have a certain thing that gelled to make that deal happen. And that doesn't mean the horse is terrible. That doesn't mean that the rider's terrible, but it was those things that came together to make that happen.
It was a combination.
Yeah, you know, so I mean, that's when, you know, people look at it, right? And you get people who swap horses with trainers and whatever it may be. But, you know, a lot of that is just the magic that makes those things happen, you know, and that's what you can't teach somebody, because you wait a lifetime to get one horse, right? Is that one horse, and you guys probably had it in training, and I know you know it, Flynn, right? Is that I have a mare that spins really good, right? So this Mr. Boomerjack mare, and she could spin a legit 1.5. Okay, if you only ride horses that can turn around a -0.5 or a 0, you never know how to get there, because you never know how it feels and how that thing happens. So what I always try to make sure is that all of my help, or anybody that comes, you know, Ginger will say, because I mean, you know, she's here now, right? You get to ride all the show stuff, right? You get to ride the crappy stuff, because that way, you know, you ride the crappy one and you ride the one that spins well. You learn, okay, I've got to do all these things to get there, right? And if all you rode is that one that spins well, that's cool, but you have no idea how to get there, and as soon as that falls apart, it's game over.
And vice versa. If you only ride the crappy one, you never know what it could feel like when they do it right. So you're like, I think that was better, but I'm not sure.
Right.
Well, if you have rode one that was kind of bad, and then you rode one that was pretty good, and then you rode one that was really good, you go, that felt more like this, and especially when you get to the middle, then you go, that felt worse. Well, worse compared to what? Well, worse like how it used to feel when they don't know how to spin at all. And then that felt better. Better what? Well, better, more like it felt when they spun really good. And so now you have a...
You're starting to get the timing and the feel.
Yeah, and you have a feel of what it feels like to when they really spin well and they spin poorly, and then you kind of know how it feels along the way.
Right. Because a lot of time, right, it's not that it got easier, right? You got better.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, when you figure out how to feed horses better, right, and how to fit them better, then everybody benefits, right? The whole barn benefits, because you had one good one. You know, very rarely does it go the other way. Like, you get a crappy one, the whole barn doesn't necessarily get crappy, right? But when you get the good one, right, everything else steps up, because then I think you get confidence. Right? And then you understand, well, maybe that'll work, and it lets you try things. But when you never are willing to change, you get stuck in that rut.
And then you were talking about earlier, you know, everything we write, you know, can fit on a business card, all your principles, and that's exactly true. The problem with the English language is it's so broad, and there's so many definitions that could fit into, you know, that deal. It's like, add pressure. How fast do I add it? How much do I add it? How quickly do I release it? Is it incremental pressure? A little harder, a little harder, a little harder? Is it, you should please move over? I think you know that. And then you give them a good kick and they move over. That could be the key that gets them to change leads, or the key that gets you bucked off.
Right.
Both of them. When do you apply that key?
But that comes from working with somebody who knows, right? Because they can steer you in the right direction. You know, I mean, I remember there's a few times I've been over to Flynn's when we're trying to get some horses fit for sales, you know what I mean? And stuff's not going the way you want, right? I mean, and he's got, you know, 60 years of tricks, right, on how to make these horses look good, and how to, you know, hide something that's not great, or how to make something look better. And, you know, when you don't know, you don't know. And the problem is, you don't know, right? You know, so I mean, so that's the bad thing. And when people offer you advice, you can't necessarily take it personal, right? Because they're not trying to belittle you, right? I mean, they're just trying to help you, and sometimes it, you know, it feels bad.
Sometimes it's knowing who does a good job on what. You know, I mean, I know somebody, I mean, I can tell you, I am not the best guy to get one set up for a halter class. You know, I mean, I can get them to stand square and this and that, but I don't have years of practice. And we were trying to get one for some photos. And I'm like, you know, a little forward, a little back, a little forward, you know, and trying to get all the feet. And there was somebody there that was watching, and they were way more familiar with setting a horse up than I was. And they were like, you mean do that? I was like, well, by golly, I'm only doing it because nobody else is volunteering.
Right.
If you think you can do better, I will be happy to let you try. And he stepped up there and bumped him around about twice and pushed him back and forward, and he stepped, and all of a sudden that thing just sat up and straight, and I was like, you are the new guy to hold horses for pictures, because that was, and like did it with that one, and the next one, and the next one, and the next one, and you're like, okay, how'd you do that? You know, and I learned a few things from them, you know, but you watch somebody that's good at it, and they're just good at their skill.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, you know, that and again, right, that's why you go to work for somebody. You know, I mean, because again, for any of us, right? I mean, if you had a guy that could train a horse that could win the fraternity, you know what I mean? He's worth $5,000 a month. You know what I mean? But when you hire somebody and they don't know that the horse has 2 leads, you know, it's hard to pay them $500 a month, right? Because they don't know. Right. But again, it's that still, right? They don't know. So you don't understand how big that is. So it's hard to discourage people to not get in the business, right? Because that's what we want, and we want to teach them. But you know, how do you let them know how long that road actually is? Right? I mean, there's very few that just jump to the head of the class, right? Yep. I mean, there's going to be exceptions to every rule, but it's that long grind that we all have to go through to get there.
That's right.
If you were going to do something other than the horse biz, right? Like you weren't successful in the horse business, what was your plan B?
Well, my college degree is in accounting. My father was a CPA in Wichita Falls for over 60 years. And I could have fallen back on that. I worked in the oil business in the office of a drilling company for several years, and I didn't like that much. But I would have stayed on the ranch and probably raised cattle or whatever.
Okay, I mean, you knew all the figures and all the money, and yet you still went into the horse biz?
Yes, I
did. Tough guy. You know what I mean? What about you, Mark?
Addicted to poverty.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I was a welder in construction, and so I did that and liked it. I enjoyed it. I got to work on some really cool projects and be on some crews that put together some pretty cool stuff. So that was nice, and I quit that job to earn a quarter of the amount of money and work twice as hard. But you know, it was fun, and so like I say, it depends on whether you want to do something you love or if you want to make money, and sometimes that can be both. And yeah, I mean, it's I think having a skill that you can fall back on is important, and definitely gives you you know, like I say, especially if it's something like, for me, I've used welding a lot in horses. I mean, there's something, a gate or a fence or a stall or something that breaks a lot on, you know, horses and cattle have a tendency to break stuff, and in turns break stuff. Right. I mean, so if you can fix it and weld it back together, that can save you some money.
And that brings up another good thing, right? If you're an intern to work for somebody and you break something, just tell them. Because there's nothing worse than when you will go to get something that's broken, nobody told you, right? So usually you won't get in trouble if you broke it, right? But you get in more trouble if you don't ever say anything about it.
Because junk breaks all the time.
Right.
I mean, that's just part of being on a ranch. So just say something.
Right.
Well, I was, like I said, I worked in the oil business about 5 years, and we sold the company, and I got a little money when we sold the company, and that's when I decided to move to the ranch. And one day I was driving to Fort Worth to go to a horse sale, and I just told myself, I said, I know what I want to do. I want to be a horse sale ringman. And I was a bid spotter or a ringman at horse sales for over 25 years, until I got just worn out from all the traveling and everything. And of course that combined well with the buying and selling horses. So it all worked out.
Yeah. What was your plan B, Ginger?
Figure skating. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, I was gonna say I never saw that one coming, but I believed you.
Well, left field.
Yeah, for sure. That was good. Okay.
And she's got, I mean, like, you know, she could fit right in there. I mean, unbelievable.
I mean, I already wear spandex for a living.
Yeah.
So do they. So.
With sequins.
That's true. That's true. I actually went to school for radio, television, and film. So that's what I studied in college.
Oh, that's convenient.
So convenient.
It is.
When Steve actually called me about doing these things, the segments and everything, I was like, I thought that's why he called me, because that's what my major was.
It's finally, I've been discovered. I've finally been discovered.
And then I said, he asked me something, would you be comfortable with that? I said, Yeah, that's what I grew up doing, and that was my major in college. And in high school, I was a news anchor on our local news station. So I was like, I'm good. Let's do this.
Right. Nice. It gets better, right? Yeah, for sure.
He was very surprised. He's like, really? I didn't even know that. I was like, oh, I thought that's why you were calling.
Yeah, no. You just got to surround yourself with smarter people than you.
Yeah.
That's all I've done. Now, I'm the looks of the group, right? Because my plan B was a model. Hand model.
Yeah.
I was just like,
But it didn't work out either, so I had to train horses. No. I used to work bikes. Right, so I probably would have raced bikes, but again, it's a young man's game. So now I would have aged out anyway, right? So I'd just be a crippled up old cyclist, probably still riding horses. So yeah, you know, it's just how that deal goes. You know, the fickle finger of fate. That's how it is.
Say that 5
poking me in
times
the
fast.
eye. You know what I mean? Bike racing, horses, got both of them. You know, so. Yeah, I mean, I hope that with what we've done, you know, with kind of the cussing and discussing, for lack of a better name of the show, right? You get to see that there are many different paths, right, for what it is. And, you know, I mean, when you're an intern in any job, you know, I know my wife, you know, she's got her teaching degree and she teaches, and, you know, I mean, she says all the time, right, when she interned, it was free, you know what I mean? They didn't pay for housing, right? I mean, she still had to rent a house, a place to live. She went there to work for free because she wanted to learn the trade, because that's what she wanted to do.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And I think a lot of the horse trainers, they just, I mean, or, you know, interns or wannabe horse trainers or future horse trainers, right? I mean, they have the perfect opportunity if they find the right people to work for.
Yep.
Watch and listen to their program, right? And just show up and do the work, right? Because there's a lot of that stuff that success-wise that just drips off on you, right? If you just hang around with the right people, right? Because it's that whole birds of a feather, you know what I mean? And if you hang around with, you know, the people that are just doing sale barn horses, which I'm not saying that's a bad thing, I'm just saying then that's the people that you run with, right?
Yep.
And then you can go up and, you know, you can do the open shows, right? And then the breed shows, and then, you know, the big events like the NRHA and the NCHA and stuff like that, right? All those have their own levels and all their own people, right? So, I mean, if you're happy down here, that's cool. You can make a great living doing that same thing, right?
Yep.
And when you get to the top, you can make a great living. But the thing you got to understand is the struggle is there for everyone, right? Because what I was told a long time ago is that the only difference between the people who have money and the people who don't is that their problems have more zeros. You know? So everybody's got the problems. You just, and how you deal with it, you know? So before we wrap things up for the day, any words of advice to future employees / interns?
I would say pay attention to the details and acts of gratitude will be repaid in full. Like, there's been some times that I was helping somebody and you know, stopped and helped somebody change a tire on their horse trailer. Had all the tools. Sure, not going in a hurry. Stopped. Man, that act of kindness, didn't know who they were. You know, 6 months later, hey, I got 4 horses for you. Who are you? Oh, somebody said that you were.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, just be nice. Be, you know, that thing. And like I say, work hard, pay attention. It's a long road, but it's fun.
Right. Ginger?
I mean, same thing. Just work hard and be honest. And I feel like there's not a lot of communication sometimes.
Right.
I feel like a lot of interns or employees a little intimidated or scared to talk to us. And I feel like communication is key in any business.
Yep.
And if you can't communicate with your employer or who you're interning with, that's going to spill over into your business. So definitely, I mean, go in with an open mind, be ready to work, and communicate.
Right. I'm guilty of the lack of communication sometimes, right? Because I'm not a micromanager by any means, right? If your job is to clean stalls and feed, I'm going to assume that you're cleaning stalls and feeding. You know, I'm not checking the stalls all the time. And I know we talked about this before, right? Is that like I'm just to the point now, so I'm not disappointed or mad. I just have them bring the horse to the cross tie, so I don't have to look at the stall, right? That's the easiest way for me to do it. And you know, so I understand, right, both sides of those things. So good or bad, sometimes you just got to take the criticism with it.
That's a good thing, you know, you brought up is that communication. I think a lot of people, they're like, oh, you work for yourself. Oh, that's kind of nice. I wish I had a, you know, I didn't have a boss or whatever. And I said, oh, I still have bosses. You have one boss and I have 12.
Right. Yeah.
And they all get an hour a day, you know, so I have 12 bosses that I have to keep happy and you only have one.
Right.
And so, like I say, with those people that are coming into the business, if you don't have good communication skills and you don't communicate with your clients, which are clients are your boss, they're paying you. Yeah. So it's a relationship there where money is changing hands. So you need to be communicating to them how their horse is doing, what it's expected of them, how, you know, and vice versa. And so good communication skills, that is key if you're going to be working for yourself, because you've got a whole bunch more bosses now and you're going to have to talk to them. So
right.
That's key.
Right. Yep, good point. What about you, Flynn?
Oh, what was the question?
Man, you got old timers. No, the question was, what advice would you give to somebody who wanted to be an intern or employee in the horse biz?
Well, I would suggest that they find a boss or a trainer, whoever they're going to work for, that is understanding and has worked a lot of people. Don't go start out with somebody that's just starting, because they can't. As you go along, you learn more as time goes on, and that's just the way it is.
Right. My advice would be marry rich. I mean, that'd make a lot of stuff a lot easier, right? If you just marry rich, a lot of those problems go away. You know what I mean?
That's
but
right.
If you can't marry rich and you marry for love, then you just got to put your head down and just grind through it, right? Because everybody's in the battle, everybody's in the struggle, and you just got to do the work, because that's what's required.
Well, not everybody's as pretty as you, so we don't have those options.
Yeah,
that's true.
I mean,
it's true.
Well, that's why I am the star of the show. So,
And I just have part-timers. I don't have it all the time.
good. That's good to know, because I was worried about you there for a minute. Do you remember where you're at?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Okay. So, well, I want to thank you for coming, Mark.
Hey, my
Thank you
pleasure.
for coming, Ginger. Flynn,
You're welcome.
I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
So remember, the temporary name of our show this week, Cuss and Discuss. If you got better name, put it in the link in the description below.
Let
Link
us
to
know.
it. I guess there's not really a link, but in the description, that way we'll know.
Yeah.
If you have suggestions for future topics, we'll have different panels of people all the time. Unfortunately, for now, you're stuck with me, because this beautiful set is in my living room. So I get to be here every day.
Well, you're stuck with me too, because I live here now. So.
Yeah, okay, there you go. Oh, not at my house.
No.
She doesn't, no.
But I live on property.
Right. So just send us whatever questions that you might have. We'll have different people here every week. The plan is to have a weekly topic, or topics, plural, right? And then we'll pull them out of a hat, and that's what we'll do. And we'll give you our thoughts. Whether you like them or not, that's what it's going to be. Like I say, if you like what we're doing, put it in the description. If you don't, that's cool. Just still hit the like button just because. So, as always, I'm Steve Kutie. Ride hard, be safe, and have fun.